Welcome to the art and science of difficult conversations. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lucie, and we love having difficult conversations.
That's right. And each week we'll either share a tip, hear how others have gotten better at difficult conversations, or demonstrate common difficult conversations and what to do and what not to do.
Let's get into it.
Hey, Lucie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Chris?
Good. I'm glad that we get to do this together.
It's exciting.
As I was telling you before, I'm part of a couple of dad groups on Facebook where we just kind of encourage each other, share struggles, do whatever. And this topic, our guest today, this is actually one of the questions that come up the most in terms of what other guys are struggling with in terms of struggling with their spouses or their partners with a separation or divorce or anything else like that. So I'm excited that we have an expert. You know, even though I'm a therapist, this is not something that I've ever done or worked with necessarily. So I'm excited to have our guest today. So Randy, we are so excited to have you here with us today.
Hey, Randy, welcome.
Thank you so much. Hi. Yeah, this is going to be great. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So I didn't share much about who you are. So, for the listeners, tell us about who you are and what got you here.
Absolutely. Yes. I had a 40-year career as a professional comedy entertainer on cruise ships and all over the place, right? Corporate shows. And being married for about 14 years, at one point we decided to get off the cruise ships because we were doing cruises for about 7 years in a row. We wanted to start a family. So we got off the ships and got some work at home and worked into it. And then I had about 3 places that I was working in that pretty consistent. And then all of a sudden, 2 of those closed. Like the entire club, they shut down. So I only had one place to play. So I dove into work and became, unbeknownst to me, became a little bit of a workaholic. And my wife said, "Hey, I need some help. You know, we had 2 kids, and I was working too hard." And after 14 years of marriage, she finally pulled the plug and said, "Look, this isn't working for me. I don't love you anymore. I want a divorce." And that really got my attention. I said the same thing that most guys do. Well, I knew it was bad, but I didn't think it was that bad. Very common, right? So I dove into my church. There was a church across the street, and I dove in, and they had a support group to help men get through a separation, divorce, and it was so eye-opening for me because I found my faith and I let it all go. And I said, okay, what can I do? What can I learn from this? Right. So, and that was, by the way, this was like 15 years ago. And now my life is full of joy, full of peace, full of significance. And it's all because of things that I learned along the way. So I've been, I was in the support group and learned all kinds of stuff. And then 6 months later into the support group, they asked me to become a leader. And I said yes. And that was 15 years ago. So I've been doing it every day, all the time for about 15 years now, because guys, we all have the same kind of issues, the same problems. We didn't know what we didn't know. We thought we were doing it right. So that's what I've been doing. That's my background.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, sure.
That's impressive. And I love many different things about your story. And sounds like your strengths I'm seeing really being able to pause at that moment, and rather than blaming, really looking at, how can I learn something from this? How can I change things? And also, I feel another strength that you actually allowed yourself to be supported and seeked out, where can I get support through this? And I think that's difficult for many people. So kudos to you.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Well, thank you. It's difficult because the world teaches us men, right, that if we ask for help, we're weak. And that's just silly. You're supposed to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps and all that stuff. And that's just junk, right? If I wanted to learn how to golf, I would ask somebody who teaches golf. If I wanted to learn anything, I would ask an expert in the field and go, okay, help. But for some reason, I don't know what's the deal, but almost all men, we think that it's some kind of weakness if we're not good in the relationship category. And that's just wrong. Are there resources? Of course. You know how you can tell? If you go to any bookstore, you'll find all kinds of relationship stuff. right? And they're all for women because men don't buy books. There's hardly any resources for just men. That's why I support men. My entire program is based on helping men get through their separation, and if the divorce is going to happen, okay, but it doesn't have to be life ending. It's not nearly as bad. It's painful, but there are things that you can do to make it a lot easier and ways to turn it around. And I'd be glad to share some tips on that.
Yeah. Randy, I'd love to go back and just to that moment of when your wife said that to you. I'd love to know, what are you thinking in the moment? What are you feeling in the moment? And how are you, what are you saying?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was devastated. I couldn't believe the pain. It was more painful than anything I've ever gone through. And I've had a kidney stone. I'd rather have another kidney stone than go through that again. It was unbelievably painful, mainly because I'm out of control. I thought I was in control, and now that's being taken away, and I have nothing to do with that. I have no say in it. And I kept saying, well, can we talk? No. Well, can we work on it? No. Can we go to therapy? No. I don't know what to do if there's nothing I can do. Okay. So it seemed that way. It seemed like I had nothing to do with it. Well, it turns out I can do a lot of things. I just didn't know it at that time. But the short answer is devastation. That's what it felt like when she said, I don't love you anymore. I want a divorce. That was it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I got to be able to do something. I can't just sit here in the pain. Of course, it feels like it'll never get better, but it can, and it will. In fact, I learned enough about it and have done it for so long that I wrote a book about it. It's called SOS Reconnect. And I'll even tell you what the SOS stands for. It's very simple, right? Straightforward. SOS. The first S is stop pushing her away. The O is open communication. And the final S is surround yourself with a godly group of men who can provide accountability and support. That's what works. Trying to change her mind doesn't work.
Yeah. When you say like stop pushing her away, looking back, like during that time period, what were some of the things you were doing that were pushing her away without you even realizing it?
Yeah, trying to change her mind, trying to prove her wrong, trying to show her, oh, it can be better. Look at this, look at that. That's just me trying to be a good boy. And she knows no matter how long that I would be good and do all the stuff that wasn't working, right? She knows it's temporary because I've shown her for 14 years. We were married for 14 years. She'd ask me periodically, hey, listen, I need some more help. And I'd say, okay. And I would help for, I don't know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And then it would slide right back in how it used to be. Standard pattern for most guys out there. We just sweep it under the rug. We don't really change permanently. We just get through it. And in my case, my wife could take it for about 14 years. And she finally said, no, I hope you become a great guy. That's wonderful for you, but I'm out. I can't do it. So my problem was I was pushing her away by trying to fix it, right? Because we're men. God gave us the logic and the need to fix things. It's in our DNA. That's how we roll as guys, right? That's what guys do. But that's not how we made women. They got the logic. We got the logic. They got the emotions and the nurturing and the intuition. All great stuff. No mistakes. But we look at life differently than they do, right? That's just how we're built. Okay. So in my mind, I'm thinking there's got to be a fix. There's got to be a way to change her mind. And all that did was push her away because I wasn't listening to what she was saying. So if you happen to be a listener, if you're watching right now or listening and you're separated, your wife is thinking two things. She's thinking, number one, I can't stand the way it is. Number two, I can't imagine that it will ever change permanently. Doesn't mean it can't change and get better. It means that right now she can't imagine it. And that's based on her personal experience with you. Can't do it. Not going to happen that way. Right? Yeah. So her biggest fear, this is legit. Her biggest fear when she asks for a separation, or, this is not just an argument, but if there's some kind of separation, her biggest fear is that you do change and you do become a good guy and you guys work it out and you get back together and things are wonderful for a while. And then they slide right back into how they used to be. That's her
Mm.
biggest fear. That's why she digs her heels in. That's why she says, no, we're not doing this. So again, and you know, if you don't mind, I'll talk directly to the guys listening to this. And I know this is harsh, but here's the real deal. If there's a separation, an actual separation, your wife is not coming back to you. And I know that sounds harsh, but your wife is not coming back to you. She may go forward with you in a whole new relationship, but she's not going backwards. So that's why whatever you're trying isn't working, right? Trying to fix the marriage, offering to go to counseling, offering to work on yourself, joining a program. I'm reading a book. All that represents going backwards to her, right? Trying to repair the old, dead, irreparable marriage. That's why it's not working. So instead, stop trying to change her mind.
You had two really important gems in there that one we'll come back to later, which is she's been saying these things for a long time and you just didn't pick up on it. So like it's not like it really isn't out of the blue. There's been hints all along, you just didn't pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to come back to that later. And number two, a really important point, which is it's never going to be the same relationship again, no matter what, because you have to have a new dynamic, you're a new person, she's a different person. You have to be willing to be different. For you, when you went through that transformation, you started changing yourself because you are learning all new habits, all new ways of thinking and behaving. What was that transformation like for you in terms of having to confront these ill-informed patterns of behaviors that you had?
Yeah, it was easy to decide, but it takes a lot of practice to do it, right? Okay, let's say for myself, I was selfish, I was a workaholic, and I was a control freak, and I didn't even realize it, right? I wouldn't choose to be those things, but I didn't really see it. Okay, it took the separation and it took devastation to get my attention, right? Okay, this needs to change. So the decision is pretty simple. Okay, stop being a workaholic. Okay. How long does that take to, okay, the decision's instant. I won't be a workaholic. Okay, now what? Well, stop working so hard. Put it away at 5 o'clock or whatever you have to do, okay? But it can't happen for her. I can't change for her or even for the marriage. That's not sustainable. And she knows it. Right? Even if you're doing all kinds of great stuff, you're becoming a whole new guy and you're working on yourself and all that kind of thing. If you're doing it for her, eventually it will slide right back into how you used to be. So you can't do it for her. What you want to do is change your goal. Most guys come in, to my program with a goal. I want to get my wife back. They call it winning your wife back, right? That's what a lot of people on social media call it. I want to win my wife back. Okay. Yeah, it's possible, but that can't be your goal. When your goal is to win your wife back, she knows that as soon as she acquiesces to your request, it'll slide right back the way it used to be. So instead, say, okay, I want to become the best version of myself. In my case, Randy 2.0. Okay. That's the goal, the real goal. Now that's in my control, right? What she chooses to do or not do or think or feel or act, whatever, that's on her side of the street. I don't have anything to do with her side of the street at all. A lot of people say, well, marriage is 50-50. It takes two people. Okay. That's not correct. Marriage is 100-100, but you have nothing to do with her 100. That's it. You have no control of her, right? You can take full responsibility for your side of it. So if my goal is to become the best version of me, that's in my control. I can do that. That happens to be the single most attractive thing that I can do, right? Taking full responsibility for my side of it. Okay. It's not about changing her mind. It's about showing her who you can be, but not for her. And it'll take some time. That's why my program is 6 months long. It can't be done in a short time. If you've been married for any length of time, right? In my case, 15 or married for 14 years. Okay, she's got 14 years of experience with me, right? I have a 14-year track record. Do you think I can just become a good boy and turn a new leaf and all that kind of stuff in a couple of weeks? Not going to happen. I've never seen it, right? And when I'm trying to convince her of my new change and my new this and my new that, I'm trying to convince her. What I'm saying and what she's receiving is, hey, by the way, you're wrong and I'm right. That's what it seems to her. So instead, for the gentleman listening, stop talking. That's it. It's very interesting. We're talking about having, good conversations. Okay. But when I say stop talking, I mean, stop trying to change her mind. Stop telling her she's wrong, basically. Instead, show her every single interaction we have, text message, email, phone call, person, live, one-on-one. Okay. You can do that by showing her that you're not trying to change her mind, that you're her biggest supporter, safest friend, right? And she can see the changes over time. That's what makes her curious. When she becomes curious, good things can happen, right? That's what that's about, right? Right now, she needs to be able to imagine that life with you could be better than it's ever been. But right now, she can't because you're still trying to backpedal and trying to talk her into something. And that represents you 1.0, right? Okay, stop it. I mean, I'll give you an example. One of our guys, one of our clients, his name's Randall. When Randall came to us, his wife had just asked him to move out. She was done. Can't do it. Please move out. And he didn't want to move out. In fact, his buddies told him not to. They said, if you move out, it'll look like you're abandoning the family. She'll never let you back. So we said, what should I do? And I told him, I said, look, you've got a golden opportunity here. You can demonstrate that you're going to put her first, or you can demonstrate that you're going to put you first. What do you want to do? And he said, I want to put her first. I said, okay, then you have to move out. So he moved out and he joined our program, and we just worked on him. Not the marriage, not the issues, just worked on him. And there were periodic texts back and forth. And about 10 and a half weeks later, he got a text from his wife. And all it said was, wow, I really like what I'm seeing and I miss you. Please come home. And they moved back home and they reconciled. They're doing great. Now he's one of my support coaches. That's
Wow,
how it works
amazing.
because, yeah, she could actually see it. It wasn't about, oh, please let me back. I'm begging you. No, she got to see it in action.
So sounds like the stop talking was more of start showing and talk, that the action speaks louder than the words. And sounds like behind the action was also shift in focus rather than trying to control or blame the other person. Well, this is your fault, or you should change. You should see me differently. Rather than shifting the focus on, rather than trying to control somebody else and their thoughts and decisions. What can I change about myself? What can I control about myself? And you've said something, becoming the best version of myself. And I'm curious, when you ask yourself that question, like, how would you know what is the best version of yourself?
Yeah, good question. A piece. There's a piece that comes over when we're doing it correctly. It's not forced. There's no stress about it. Everyone gets to choose who they want to be. Okay. I have changed. I'm not the same guy I used to be. I was all about making the money and making it happen because the world says, right, if you want to be a good husband, you need to be a good provider. Right. So we stress and we get money and we do because that's what we're taught. Well, that's a piece of it. What we're really supposed to do as husbands, a good husband, I want to provide an environment where she can feel safe and secure all the time. Financially is one part of it, but that's all the guys learn. We just stop right there. Okay. So if it's starting to unwind, if it's not working, we scramble to try and change her mind. We try to fix the problem instead of fixing ourselves. So for me personally, you can't see it, but on the inside of my forehead, there's a tattoo and it says, how can I help? That's how I focus. How can I help? It's not about how can I change your mind? How can I make this work? Okay. And it's hard for us guys, especially for us men, because we don't get paid to be patient. If you're employed, you don't get paid unless you make something happen. So making it happen works for us everywhere else. That's why this is so hard. Letting go of control, it's actually an illusion. We don't have control, but we feel like we do. Letting go is not giving up. We just think it is. It's not. Letting go is letting go of the outcome, letting go of what she's deciding to do. Take full 100% control of your side of it and watch what happens. It's pretty amazing what can happen over a long period of time, right? So first you learn the new behaviors, then you practice those for a long time until they become habits, right? Once they become habits, that's when she can accept that this new thing is real because you're doing it for you, right? She'll hear about it, I promise. They always do. Wives will always hear about your progress. But you don't say, hey, look at me. I'm working on myself. I know we could get together. That's still more trying to get her involved. It's unnecessary. Every time you try and get her involved, it pushes her away. You can open communication. That's the O of SOS. Open communication. You can do that, but not by we need to talk. That's the worst phrase ever, right? Stop talking about the relationship. Show her. I have a lot of little phrases that I use to help me remember the concepts. Here's one of my phrases. If you'd like your wife to look at you differently, give her something different to look at. At least that's logical, right?
Nice one.
You can't talk your way out of things that you behave yourself into. You can't. So listen more. You want to listen, active listen, not like, okay, I'm listening. Okay. You guys have probably already heard this, but I agree with Stephen Covey when he says most people don't listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. I did that for 14 years. I was figuring out the answer while she was telling me or describing the issue, which meant for 14 years, I was never really listening to her. Yeah, that doesn't work. So if you want, I can give you a couple of good phrases to start things going, right?
Well,
like I said, go ahead.
I'd love to just acknowledge what you're saying is,
Sure.
It reminds me of a therapy client I have who's working on communication with his wife, because he's not saying much. And we went through one scenario where what he thought he was saying to her was totally different than what she was receiving. And it was very clear, even from him describing it, it was very different from what he thought it was saying. And once we got to that point of him realizing, oh, that's not what she heard, he started like immediately thinking of every other conversation. He's like, am I doing that at work too? Am I doing that everywhere? Like the light bulb went on, like, oh, I'm doing this wrong everywhere. I gotta stop doing this habit of mine. Right. So I love that you brought up because I was gonna ask you, what does that open communication look like? What are some specific things that are helpful to really create that dialogue as opposed to just pressure or monologuing?
Right. And you said it, pressure. We have to be very careful because in the beginning of a separation, that took a lot of effort for her to, let's say, move out or ask you to move out, right? That took a lot of effort. That wasn't a snap choice. She's been thinking about this for a long time. Okay. So in the beginning, it's going to be very difficult. So I would highly recommend give her space. Give her space. Okay. Giving her space is not ignoring her, right? It's absolutely incorrect when people say they tried like the no contact technique. That's crap. Sorry. She's your wife. Don't ignore her. Giving her space is not ignoring her. It's just not bugging her about the relationship. Leave her alone. If she has a question, answer it. Talk anytime she wants to talk about something. But when you bring it to her, it's pressure. Hey, I know we can figure this out. I know we can make it work. Right? My counselor, my people, my pastor, whatever, they've told me that we need to work on it. Oh my gosh. That's pure pressure. 100% pressure. And I've never seen it work. I have been doing this for 15 years. I have never heard a wife say to their husband, oh, honey, you're right. Thank you for showing me the error of my ways. Says no wife ever, right? Okay, she's got her own perspective. She really does. She has her own perspective of everything. Everything. So if you want to open communication, first, give her space. If she asks questions, great. In the meantime, work on yourself. But you never say, we need to talk. Don't say that. You can give her what I call lean in invitations. Hey, can I get some feedback on something? Can I get your opinion on something? Can I run something by you? Can you help me? those are all 1,000% better than we need to talk. Right? Because when you say, can I get your feedback on something? They lean in. Can you help me? Right? It's more of a lean in. It's more, I guess it's just easier to, let me run something by you. I was thinking blah, 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 blah. What do you think? Okay. End your conversations with, what do you think? Or what do you think of this idea? Or here's what I was thinking. What do you think? Guys don't do that. For the most part, here's how it should be. Okay. And the wives are tired of it. They're just done with that. They're not being heard. Okay. Your wife needs to feel heard all the time. And if she's telling you something that's important to her and you just give her an answer, doesn't feel heard. And after a while, she'll just stop bringing it to you. That's how we get into it. So the first thing you want to do is get healthy before fixing the issues. You get healthy first, right? That's how it works. It's the only way that I've ever seen it work. It does work. I mean, it works really well. I'll give you another example. Another one of our guys, his name was Paul. His wife was in an active affair, meaning not only did he know about it, but she put it on the calendar when she was going to go away for the weekend on the family calendar. I'll be gone this weekend. And he's out of his mind in pain.
That's super active.
Right?
That's
right. It's active. And he's going, what do I do? How can we, Okay. So he came to us, joined the group, and we worked on him. We said, okay, look, it won't do any good to say you're doing something wrong. The Bible says that you shouldn't do this. Hey, how's that working for you? Right? Don't do that. So instead, again, we just worked on him. And every time she'd leave for the weekend, they had a 7-year-old daughter. Okay. So they'd have daddy-daughter dates, right? He'd take her to pancake breakfast and they'd have a great time for the weekend. He became a really great dad. Super. And when he was ready, when he was healthy enough, we gave him the words how to bring this up. He said, hey, listen, can I run something by you? And she said, yeah, what's up? He said, yeah, this whole situation isn't working for me. So I found an apartment not too far away because I still want to, see the kid and all that kind of stuff. And she said, hang on a second. I've noticed your changes, but how do I know that it's permanent? And he gave her the correct answer, which is, well, I really like my new direction. I have every intention of staying this way. I've got a group of guys I've surrounded myself with and a network of friends. So I intend on doing this, but I understand if that's not working for you, I'm fully prepared to move out. And she said, hang on. She picked up the phone, called the other guy, called it off, and they reconciled. And they are doing great. Doing great because she got to see it. Remember that 10.5 weeks? All he was doing was working on himself, not bothering her about it, not telling her she's wrong. He knows that. But instead, 100% him, he became the best version of himself. Paul 2.0. That's how it works. And they're still doing great. I just talked to them a little while ago.
Fantastic. It also brings up additional dimension, what you said at the beginning, that guys are very rational. Get it done, fix it. Now, women, of course, we are generalizing here. Also, both of us have always combination. But let's say the emotional part of the relationship. And one of the words that, we talk about a lot in communication, even leadership, is the trust. And sounds like the trust kept being broken again and again. When the guy made a promise, I'm going to change. It lasted for 3 weeks. Then it went back. And so change in that behavior sounds like is speaking, of course, louder than the words, because the words has been said before. But now really the change in that behavior kind of rebuilds that trust in the relationship. And sounds like also what you help your clients to really increase that self-awareness, both self-awareness and also awareness of their wives and of her feelings. Even they might be uncomfortable with the emotional part, but actually becoming more comfortable and being more inviting rather than telling her what to do or what she should do, shouldn't do. Really consider her as more of a equal partner and being inviting rather than let's get things done here.
Right. Yeah, let's do it my way.
Let's co-create rather than do it this way.
Sure. Yeah, that's the only way it works. I've never seen it work any other way.
Hmm.
But it does work. I mean, when you become the best version of yourself for yourself and not to fix this issue, that's really attractive, right? And he's going to continue. All my guys, they're going to continue because it works. That's what works. I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to read good books. I'm going to watch the right videos. I'm going to attend the right meetings. I'm going to do the right stuff, not for her, because that's temporary. And a lot of times, especially in the beginning, a guy will say, well, how do I get her to trust me again? Well, that's really easy. Become trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't focus on her. Don't focus on what she is and isn't doing. Focus on you. I have control of me. Okay. So I can be supremely trustworthy. Okay. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Start with little micro promises that you can always, always keep. I'll be there at 7:00. You're there at 7. No excuse. Nothing. Build on that. Start with something simple, right?
I love that you highlight over and over again, like the lack of identity of men truly in our at least in the Western society. I'll say Western society because
Right.
I only have the US point of view, but
right.
But the fact is a lot of men define themselves, I'm a husband or I'm a father or I'm a work here or I do this by their titles, right? Like they are identified based upon their relationship with others as opposed to who am I? Who am I for myself? How do I show up for myself first?
Mm-hmm.
How do I be who I want to be? As opposed to how do I fit these specific roles and do these specific things in my life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, it's not about just doing what you're supposed to do. We all get to choose who we're going to be. Who do I want my friends to see when I show up? Right? Do I want to be known as being successful? Is that my number one goal? I want to be successful. That's what it used to be for me. Right? Okay. That's not my number one. I want to be helpful. I want to be encouraging. I want to be supportive. I want to be safe. Those aren't normal goals for guys, right? I want to be successful. Yeah. I make a lot of money. I have a big house. I have all this stuff. I had all this stuff. I did. My wife and I, big house, cars, kids, everything. I lost it all. And I am 1,000% happier now than I've ever been because it's not based on that. My happiness is not based on the stuff that I can accrue. That's not it at all. It's about how I choose to show up. Right. And if I can be helpful, if I can be supportive, yeah, that's what works. That's what works. And I didn't know that until I found a support group. Because support groups for guys, that sounds, I mean, all we see on TV is a bunch of dudes in some basement. And we're going, yeah, I'd rather drink my own bathwater than go to that. Yeah, okay. Okay, I get it. But you'd have to go to one to realize that's not what it's like at all. In fact, it's more like what we're doing right now. We're on Zoom, we're talking to each other. That's what it is. But in my program, it's a bunch of guys, separated husbands who've already gone through it, found healing, and are helping the other guys. So they're either going through it, you're in a group of guys who've already gone through it or who are going through it currently. And you instantly feel better because you're not alone. And we're just regular guys talking, and we have answers because personally, I've made all the mistakes. You name a mistake, I've probably made it, right? I was too this, too that, not enough this, not enough that, trying to change her mind, all that kind of stuff. So there is a way. There's even a way to open up communication. If you've got a minute, I can explain it to you.
Well, actually, I don't want to miss this other point is, I agree with you 100% on like the importance of the community and support and accountability. I think those are really useful. I know you come from a Christian background, so that's like that infuses into how you're doing it. What do you suggest, or what resources do you suggest for guys who don't identify as Christian?
There's a lot of good stuff on online. There's a lot of good books out there. There's just a ton of resources out there if you know where to look. Right there, I would say go to Amazon and look up books about relationships that are written by men for men. There's quite a few out there. I don't have a lot in that world because that's what brought me to Christ. I consider myself Christian but I wasn't really active. I wasn't really into it until they got my attention with the divorce. And I said, okay, I don't want to do it my way anymore. I want to do it your way. What does that look like? So, and in my experience, that's what does work, because doing it on my own, under my own power, how's that working for you? By the time that happened, I was 50 years old. And it turned out I was a 50-year-old boy, just doing what I thought was best. I could prove it. Look at my house. Look at my cars. I could prove that I was successful, but I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
But there's lots of resources out there. I mean, ours is faith-based. My program is absolutely faith-based. But there's a lot of people that learn a lot from it, even from my book, which is like $5. That if they don't like that aspect of it, okay, you can still glean a lot of what to do and how to do it. There's a lot of that in there that just makes perfect sense. It makes logical sense when you think about it. So
yeah, appreciate that. Yeah,
that
just because I know
question?
that there are guys looking for those are guys looking for accountability or support groups, I should say.
Yeah,
and may not identify as Christian. So
yeah, there's other groups out there. If they would just want to support an accountability group, I'm sure there's others out there. Look for, just put accountability group or support group in there and in Google and see what comes up.
Awesome. So yeah, so you were going to share that other communication tips.
Oh yeah. There's a thing that I started 15 years ago. Little extension of my story. My wife was not only done, but we had 2 kids, littles, and they were very much on mom's side. Didn't want to be with me at all. To the point where they finally asked her, do we have to go see dad? We don't want to spend any time with him. So our relationship just fell apart. And in the beginning, I was all about, oh, you should be with your father 50% of the time. I love you. I miss you. Pressure. Right. Now, since they were like 9 and 11, of course, they had cell phones already. Of course, it's like the law by that age. I used to work at Disneyland in Anaheim, the original. And so when the kids were very young, like 0, we would take the kids to Disneyland. And then it became something for me and the 2 kids, right? It was just the kids and I. And that was a fun time. Taking them to the park, having worked there, I knew the place really well. But now we're separate. Now the kids don't want to talk to me. I said, okay. So I was at Disneyland one time by myself, just walked around the park. I went all the way to the end. There's a little area called Critter Country. And I went to the very end of it, turned around, and I noticed that there was no signs anywhere that said Critter Country. And my kids kind of know Disney pretty well. So I took a picture of it and I texted it to both of my kids. And all I said was, where am I? Within 5 minutes, I got a text back. And my oldest said, you're in Critter Country. Come on, Dad, you can do better than that. Oh, it was on. For the next 2 hours, I played a game with my kids, and all I did was take a picture and send it to them. And they would have to guess where I was. And it got all the way down to like taking a picture of a little decoration on a wall, and they would nail it. And it was fun. That's when I realized it's not about the pressure of, oh, I miss you, I love you, we should talk more, blah, 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 self-pressure. So I developed something called reconnecting. And it's reconnecting using text, but it's not about texting the way that we normally think of it, right? We think texting is a two-way street. It's for engagement. Okay, we're not going to use it that way. We're going to use it as a delivery system, right? So a reconnecting text, there's some rules to this. Number 1, a reconnecting text needs to be specific and personal. Number 2, no pressure. And number 3, frequency. How often do we do this? Okay. I'll give you an example of a reconnecting text. Let's say that my wife is into roses, right? She loves gardening roses. Okay, then specific would be what kind of roses? Well, her favorite are, I don't know, blue roses. Okay, great. So if I went to Google and I went to, let's say, Google News, because that's where they have all the articles and nobody goes there. So you go to Google News and you put in blue roses. What comes up are all these articles, these fresh articles that are all about how to garden blue roses. And as a good husband, I would flip through them and look at the articles real quickly, put maybe 5 minutes of effort into it and go, not done. Oh, wait, this one right here. This one's got photos and a nice little article. She's going to love this. I grab the link to the article. And I text it to her. But all I say is, check this out. That's it. I don't say, here, I found an article about roses. I think you'll like it. And that way you'll like me again. Don't be stupid. Don't force it. Just a link to something that you know she'll like. Okay. Now she gets a text. Because right now, when there's a separation, generally speaking, if you send her a text, her phone kind of dings or lights up. It's got your name on it. She goes, what does he want now? Right? Okay, we got to fix that. Here's how. Stop sending her pressure stuff. She gets a link and she says, what's this? Click. And now it's about an article about gardening blue roses. Very specific, very personal. Depending on your relationship, that might be very welcome. Interesting. Okay. That was about her, something she enjoyed, but you didn't say a single word about, hey, can we talk? Pressure, right? No pressure. Don't say, I miss you, I love you. Don't. You don't need to, because you can't send someone a text without thinking of them. So what you're really saying is, I am thinking of you, but without the pressure. Sorry, Lucy, you had a question?
Yeah, so it sounds like that actually, it almost seems like instead of focusing on my needs, I need you, I miss you, I want to speak with you, we need to have the conversation about me. It's more about, what does she like? Kind of having that empathy, practicing that empathy power. What would she appreciate? What does she care about? And really making that about the other person and showing that love and care rather than wanting it, or I need something from you. So it sounds like there's a switch. And I have a question, because in the past you've mentioned, about the patience. The guys, we are not paid to be patient, we are paid to get things done. And now it's more of like an approach of, I'm not asking, I'm just being there for her, I'm just showing care for her. What happens? It's kind of more patient approach, seems like. It's so what happens? How would you say the guys should respond when they get, okay, now I am getting angry, I'm not getting the response from her that I want? How to navigate that stage? What would be some of your tips?
When you yeah, absolutely. And guys do that. They expect a response. Okay. Well, that's a clear indication that you're not ready to reconcile with your wife. You have work to do. If you still have feelings of anger or resentment, clear indication you're not ready. You will not be coming back to that. Okay. So we help guys get through that. We can, channel our energy somewhere else, usually in learning more about ourselves, right? But when you're, it's an outreach, okay? But one of the things we have to be very careful with is that expectation of a reply. I sent her something nice, she didn't even say thank you. Okay. So what you're saying is you sent her something nice to get a specific response. You're not ready. That's not it. It's not about engagement. It's a delivery system. It's like a little gift, a little present. Okay. And then you give her some time. Right. The third rule is frequency. How often do we do this? Well, if you're doing this, if you're butting heads and things aren't good with you, don't send her one of those every day. That's a full court press. It will feel like a technique. It'll feel like you're trying to get something from her. Give her space. You can send her an article, a link to an article, a photo. If you guys have kids, as an example, let's say that you go into your phone, you got a ton of photos, you go back to the very beginning when your kids were very small, and you find a photo that you're not in. Find just a picture of the kids or the kids and mom, right? Grab the photo, text it to her. But all you say is, look what I found. That's not a question. You don't need a response. But I don't know very many parents who wouldn't want to see a picture of their own kids, even if it's already on their own phone. You know what I'm saying? You nailed it, Lucy. You said it's more about her. It's all about the other person. And what I say to my clients, my guys, you want to do this reconnecting texting idea. You want to send a reconnecting text every single day, but not to her. You send one, to your wife one day, and then one to, if your kids have a cell phone, one to them, then another one to a buddy, then a friend, and a coworker. You get really good at the reconnection. Okay.
Mm.
And it's not about getting a response or reply.
Mm.
It'll most likely happen organically, right? And you'll know. So if she replies with a thumbs up or a heart emoji or a thank you, great. Then you can do it maybe twice a week, right? In the beginning, once a week, twice a week maximum.
Randy, I love this approach because you're also bringing in, like, it's not just about her, it's about how do you be a good person to everybody, all your how do you build that relationship. And with your wife, or even ex-wife, if you're divorced at this point, it's you're thinking about how do I essentially go into that dating phase appropriately now. Like, even if I didn't do it correctly the first time, how do I do this correctly? Like, I'm not gonna text somebody I just met like every day, because that would be nonsense, right? But I would just do things to start building that rapport. Randy, I really appreciate everything you've been saying. I love it. I wish we could. I would love to have you talk about come back and talk about infidelity too, because I think that's another important topic that comes up a lot. But if somebody were, I don't know why, but let's say they only tuned into this episode right now, 45 minutes into the episode, and they missed everything else and they don't want to rewind because the way their system works, what are 1 to 2 takeaways that they should take away from everything you just shared with us?
Absolutely. If you want to fix the situation, if you've been kicked out or your wife has left or whatever, and they really want to fix it, the first thing you want to do is let go of the idea of changing her mind. That's just off the table. That will not work. I've never seen it work. What does work is when you decide, I'm going to become the best version of myself that I can possibly be. And that's in our control. Okay. In fact, I mean, if you like, for your listeners, I would love to offer a free reconnection planning session, a personal one, a one-on-one. If they want, you can just go to my website, go to randypryor.com, and then click on that, and you'll find a place where you can get a free reconnection planning session. Because my heart goes out to anybody who has to go through this. It's awful, and we don't know what to do. So the first thing is give up the idea of changing her mind or fixing the issues or telling her what you're doing to fix it, or even, hey, I'm in a group now, and blah, blah, blah. Let that go, because this is much more important than your marriage. This is what we call legacy stuff, right? If you've got kids, now is the time. They're watching you right now more than ever. What's he going to do? What's dad going to do? Am I going to be okay? Depending on their age, of course. But we can pass this stuff down to our kids, and they're going to pass that down to their kids, right? So we can help their marriage when they get married. So it's much more valuable, much more important than just us.
I love that focus on the future and the role modeling. It's not just about you if they have kids. It's about, what are you role modeling? Even if it doesn't work out, you're still role modeling how to be a good person.
Absolutely.
Randy, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, what ended up happening with you and your wife?
We became really good friends. She was absolutely done. And in a lot of cases, I waited too long to reach out for help. Remember when I said I made all the mistakes? My mistake was I waited too long. Were there therapies we could do, couples counseling, marriage retreats? Of course there were. I just said, I don't need that. I'm fine. I'll be good. Okay, so I waited too long. So it took a while, but we became friends. And now, and I know this is not a goal for anybody, and this is kind of odd, but not only are my ex-wife and I really good friends, but her husband is one of my best friends. We've become really, really close friends. In fact, whenever I fly back to Kentucky to visit them and the kids, I always stay with them. And it's not only not awkward, it's awesome. And I get it. In the beginning, if you're fighting, nobody wants that. I don't want to be a friend of her. I want to be your husband. Okay. I get it. Yeah. And again, it took a couple of years to get there. But now my former spouse and I have a presentation that we do at churches about forgiveness. Wow. It's healthy. My kids are now, oh my gosh, it's my oldest daughter's birthday today. He just turned
Oh.
Happy
25.
birthday.
Great.
Yeah,
Happy
happy birthday.
birthday.
Yeah, and my youngest turns 23 in 2 months. So, I mean, it happens fast. Kids grow up so fast.
Yep.
But now they don't have what happens normally in the world is like parents hate each other, they're divorcees, all that. I can't believe she did that. She's so bad. It's all her fault. Okay. How's that working for you? Stop. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be that way. It's so much better to demonstrate what it can be, right? So much better for the kids. And now they can take that to their soon to be spouses. And
Yeah.
is it spouses? Is that spice? I'm not sure.
Space.
But yeah, peace. Yeah, it's better for everybody. And it certainly is a lot more peaceful. I know it doesn't
Sure.
seem like a goal for us guys is I want peace. No, I want what I want. I want my wife back. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But really, peace, significance, joy, much better.
Yeah. Love
So
that.
I'm hearing there's also a shift about the goals, not just
Yep.
I want to have this, but how do I want to feel? How do I want to show up? And what kind of impact legacy I want to create? And sounds like not just for your family that you're creating that impact and contribution also for your communities anywhere you share this. That
Yeah.
a new vision of what life after this painful event can be, and that it still can be a friendly relationship and even contributing to each other, and role model
Absolutely.
even for your kids, how
Absolutely. Yeah.
relationships can be peaceful.
Yeah. It's much more important than getting what we want. Much more important. And really attainable when you change your focus to what can I do? How can I be the best version of myself? That's the bottom line.
Love that.
Beautiful.
Lucie, any other last thoughts?
Just thank you for sharing your time and your experiences with us, for actually even being vulnerable, because I know for a lot of men that is something no especially in our culture, right? But you sharing about your mistakes and about your journey, but even about the pain, actually can really help all the men, guys there, even maybe women listening, that are going through something similar, or thinking, oh my God, maybe I should really think about my marriage. Is my spouse happy? Actually, also on the emotional level there. I should get help sooner rather than it comes to this point. So
Yep.
really thank
Reach
you.
out.
Appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it was great talking to you, Randy. We'd love to have you back and talk about infidelity
Yes.
too. That'd be
Oh,
great
yeah.
to talk about that.
Love to do it. Love to do it. Looking forward to
Good
it.
deal.
Thank you, Chris.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Randy.
Thank
you,
you.
Randy.
Hey, a big thank you to our guest, Randy. If you are interested in learning more about him, if you're interested in that free consultation, if you're listening, please check the links below. I'll put all his information down there. Again, if you are also interested in just building your skill sets, remember that I have a course. I'll put the link down below. It's not open for enrollment right now, but you can get on the wait list for when I update stuff, because I like adding stuff in like this. We'll put in role plays around this kind of stuff as well. But if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, please please subscribe, please comment anything, leave us a review. Let us know what we can do to make this podcast even better, what topics you want us to cover. Even as he was talking, I was thinking, oh man, I would love to talk about other types of relationships other than just heterosexual relationships. I think it'd be great to get viewpoints of all different types of dynamics, I think, because it affects everybody. So as he was talking, the wheels in my head were turning, so I'd love to get into that. So again, please subscribe, let us know what you think, and we'll see you next week.